Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jade and today I am doing my April wrap up. I'm really proud of how much I read in April. I really think that I read a lot more than I have recently because I've been getting so much more inspired to read and I read some really good books. But first let's start with the audiobooks I finished this month. So the first audiobook I finished is The Demon King by Cindy Williams-Chaya. And this book is about this world where you have the ruling kingdom and they have wizards that help them, and then you have like the tribal clans and they have a different kind of magic that basically there's kind of just like two very different kinds of magic, and they both hate each other, but they made an alliance after this a horrible event that happened 1,000 years ago where this wizard got too much power and almost destroyed the world. So now the clans kind of have like power over the wizards and prevent them from using too much magic. And you have two point of views in this novel. You have a point of view of the princess, who is going to be the next queen, and she is realizing that she doesn't know a lot that's going on in her kingdom and what's happening with some growing tensions. And then you have a point of view of a boy who was raised in the clans, but he was also raised in the streets of the capital. And he used to be a street lord, but he got out of that to protect his family. And he kind of gets drawn in to a lot of drama as there have been some mysterious murders going on about in the village of people from an opposite street gang that he used to be enemies with, so he kind of gets involved in a little bit of drama there, and the two paths do end up crossing, and I just really like the two characters and I like them together. I think it's a really good book, and I definitely want to continue with the series. I've heard so much about her novels, which is why I finally decided to just read this, and I definitely will be continuing. I'd say it's like a 4.5 out of 5, actually. I think it's a very good book. It could be a 5-star. It just didn't stick with me in the way I think I want my 5-star rating books to be, so I would say it's a 4.5 out of 5. The next book I listened to is The Witches of I don't really know how to say that. But this book is just a really short book, and it's it's about the modern world, and things start happening in the town because they want to build a supermarket at this crossroads area, and there is an old lady who is a witch who says that they can't build there because it turns out that that place is like a bridge between worlds, and if it's destroyed, all of these demons will get into the world and, attack and destroy everything. And then there's two other main characters. One is a priest and one owns a store for witches but doesn't believe in being a witch. And they both get involved in this overarching story, and they both have their own struggles they're going through and with their faith and everything after some bad events happen to them. And you kind of see them start to heal from that, and I think that's really great. But it's just a really fun short story with witches, and I like reading about witches, so I definitely like it. I'd say it's probably a 3.5 out of 5. It's nothing special, but it is very it's well written and it does have a good plot. The next book I listened to is Shuntay, which is a story that takes place in France, kind of right before the revolution that happens, and it's about this girl whose parents died because of smallpox. And so now she has to provide for her family with her older brother and her younger sister. And she does this by turning common objects using magic into gold so that she can buy things, except it quickly turns back to what it actually is. So she has this type of magic she can use, but in order to use it, she has to use her sorrow. So her sorrow is what fuels her magic. And not everyone can do it, but it's really interesting, and they kind of have a lot of problems in their life because their brother is a gambler and he's gambled away all their money, and he's just really manipulative and kind of doesn't care what he like what his actions do for other people. And she decides that she needs to find a way to get more money so that her and her sister won't be starving and that they can move into a safer place where their brother can't find them. And she gets into a different type of magic that uses sorrow and blood. And she ends up going to the court of Versailles to gamble. So you have kind of like a fun, like, she's a normal girl, but she's in like the inner circle and dealing with kind of like the politics of noblemen and all that kind of stuff. So it's just really cool, and she has a hard time adjusting back and forth once she starts spending too much time there. But I think it's a really good book. I actually think this is a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure it's a standalone, but I think it could be a whole series just because the magic system's really cool. And I think if you took the magic system and put it at like different points in history, that could be really fun because there's so much you could do with that. But I really enjoyed this book. Now, we can get into the physical copies of books I read. The first book I read was Two Old Women by Velma Wallace. This is for my ethnic literature class, and it's a short story about two Inuit women that are part of the Athabascan tribes in Alaska, and they end up getting left behind to slowly starve to death because their tribe cannot find any food and everyone's starving, and it's just too much of a burden to bring them along. And this is a practice that did used to happen. And the two old women decide that they're not ready to die, and they set out to provide for themselves. So it's just kind of like a really awesome story of betrayal, courage, and survival. And I really, really enjoyed it, actually. It's just a nice short little book, which I actually remember that I have assignment due tonight in this, so I gotta work on that. I'm about to put that on the bed. Close enough. The next book I read was Potinki by Patricia Grace. This I read for my World Indigenous Literature class. And this is about a tribe of Native Americans, I believe in Hawaii, but I'm not completely... No, I think it's in New Zealand, actually. Yeah, it's in New Zealand, I believe. And they... It's like it's a story that goes across a couple different generations, which is really, really cool. And it involves like how the main characters became a family and just some like family plot points, but it also involves a bigger plot point of the dollar men, which want to take away some of their land from them in order to build like the SeaWorld type attraction, and they don't want to do that because they don't want their land destroyed. And so it's just kind of like that kind of struggle, and their land's getting affected by the construction, and there's also like other problems going on. So it's just kind of like, it has a theme of like land being taken from natives and things like that. And it is actually a really, really good story. It's kind of hard to understand. It's definitely like written very differently. I didn't have a hard time, but I know that a lot of people in my class did. And I think it's actually a really, really good book. I would actually probably reread this in the future just to see like what kind of different interpretations I get from it. But the first like physical YA book I read is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I have been wanting to read this book for literally like a year and a half, and I finally picked it up, and it's so good. So great. Love this book. I really can't wait to continue on with the next one. But this is about a school specifically for people who are very intelligent in different aspects, and they can go to the school to learn just like in a way that fits their criteria because normal high school doesn't challenge them enough. And the school was funded by this really rich guy, and there is actually this big mystery that happens because the first year the school was opened, his wife and daughter are kidnapped and paid for ransom by this character called Truly Devious, and it's presumed they're dead, and it's like a very long time later, like 50 years or more later. It's like 80 years later, and the main character in this novel actually wants to be a true crime detective, and she decides that she is going to solve the mystery of Truly Devious. So it's just really, really cool. It's a 5 out of 5 star book. I think everyone needs to read it. It's really great. Then the next book I read this month was Furyborn by Claire Legrand. Also a really good book. I would say it's a 3.5 out of 5 stars to 4 out of 5. I would say it's a 5 out of 5 stars for the magical system in the world. I think it was very well developed, but I had to lower the star rating because I really didn't like how the characters were. But this book is about a prophecy in which there'll be two queens. One who's the Blood Queen who would destroy the world as they know it, and one is the Sun Queen who will save them. And it has two main characters 1,000 years apart, who are both the prophesized queens, but you have to figure out which one is which. And there is like this threat that they're supposed to protect you from, which I think is really cool because they don't tell you anything about the threat. But it's so interesting. Like, the religious system and the magic system is very, very well developed, and I think just the setting of this book is very great. I just didn't like one of the characters. I really liked Riel. I thought she was just kind of a realistic character. Like, she's younger. She has had not the easiest event that's affected her whole life, and she's discovering who she is and what she wants to be. And I really liked her struggle, but I did not like Elena. I liked her in the end of the book. I just think the first half of the book she was really insufferable. She's just, I think a lot of the people who have problems with the Throne of Glass series would have problems with this character because she's an assassin for the Empire, and she's all about how amazing she is, and she's indestructible, and she's so attractive, and just like, she's really good at manipulation, and she loves to manipulate people, and she's in this relationship, but like, I did not like the way she treated him or the way their relationship functioned. I thought it was just not, it was weird. But later in the book, when she stops trying to be insufferable and a know-it-all, she actually is a really great person. I really do like her relationship with her brother and her family, and I do like kind of how her relationship develops with a different character. I just did not like her at the beginning. But I do think in the next book, in the series, that those problems won't really be there for me, and I do really want to continue because I think it will be a really great series, and I'm like excited to see how the characters change. And then the last book I read this month is my favorite book I've read in years. And that is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't read a book like this ever. And I haven't read a book that I've liked this much in a very long time. And I think this is a very great book. I wasn't sure for the first like 130 pages. I was like, this is good, but like I thought it'd be better. And then the action didn't stop from that point on, and I fell completely in love with it. It just wasn't what I expected at first, but it is so good. It's from the perspective of 3 different girls. We have Val, the queen bee, who's hiding a very dark secret. We have Marin, who's a new girl, and she moved to the island of Sawkill after a tragedy struck her family, and she just feels like she has so much responsibility of helping keep her family apart that she doesn't have time to actually deal with her own problems, or keep her family together, I mean, and like not let them fall apart. And then there is the other character who is Zoe, and she's lived in Sawkill for a couple years, and she's kind of like an outsider, an outcast. No one likes her because she doesn't fit in this rock. The people who live on Sawkill are all really rich and dress in specific ways and act in certain ways. And you see kind of their 3 stories collide because the island of Sawkill has had a urban legend about all the girls that have disappeared over the years, because there has been a lot of disappearances of young girls over the years. And it's supposedly because of this monster. And oh my god, this is a good book. Really, really good book. Gotta say. Not what I expected. So glad it's not what I expected, because it's so much better. I really think everyone needs to read this. And this is also a book I've been so excited to read. I literally read like 2 of my most anticipated books that I've had on my shelf since they came out. And I'm so proud of myself for that because these books are both so good and I love them so much. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like down below. Tell me what was your favorite book you've read this month. And I'll see you all in my next one. Bye-bye!